What do you have to do? What kinds of things do you have to do to a student, physically or psychologically perhaps, to prepare them for making it on their own?
Sum up a very important aspect of our thinking is the fact that over the years, other people, I refer to it as third-party decisions, have been exercised in determining what a person with a disability should or should not do, could or could not do. And I think this is wrong. I think they must be put into situations which are challenging because their potential, whether it's physical, academic, emotional, or whatever it may be, will only develop to the degree to which it is challenged.
Dr. Timothy Nugent was the pusher for it because there was a lot of veterans that were coming in from the world wars that were injured and were basically told, you know, you've done your job and you're kind of done, and they didn't really have anything else for him. And he knew they could do more, they could have a better quality of life, and it gave amazing opportunities for people with disabilities in the future.
A student who graduates from high school and if they have a documented disability, they can register for services through DRES, which is Disability Resources and Educational Services.
Dealing with physical therapy, specialized medical services, counseling, the adaptive equipment that would assist them in their independent living.
We have come a long way. There's still educating that goes on every single day.
And these young people are pursuing 56 curricula in 10 colleges and divisions of the University of Illinois, Dick. In other words, they're doing just about anything that any other student would do, so long as it is the right thing for that particular student with a disability to do. In addition to that, they participate in student government, in residence hall government, they participate in band, chorus, glee club, the newspaper, the ILEO, the photographic editor of the ILEO for 2 years was one of our wheelchair boys who is now a doctor of medicine. So they are participating not only in all academic opportunities on campus, but in all the extracurricular, extramural, social, and cultural activities on campus.
The number one person that stands out in my mind, she came in as a freshman, very much dependent on her mother and her family for a lot of things. One of the students in our Beckwith program, for the first year she was here, she used a scooter. They're still going to get a job, and when they do get that job and they live in an apartment, then they'll know how to hire personal assistants and train them to meet their needs. She didn't particularly need to stay at the Beckwith program, but she didn't know any different. She thought that she needed someone to help her with everything. A month and a half into the school year, her freshman year, she was like, oh, I can kind of do some of these things on my own. Within 2 months of being on campus, we had her in her own manual chair pushing around campus, and she never went back to that scooter, so she had to learn how to push the chair, and it was a great independent wake-up call for her. She went on to graduate, and then she got a double master's and is now employed and living a life of independence.
He is a pretty amazing individual. He came in from Chicago, and the Chicago program actually found him participating in Special Olympics just because that was the sports program that was close or convenient for him. And they got him out of Special Olympics and got him into adaptive sports and got him playing, and didn't have the best life experience as a young kid, but wanted to pursue something and do something better for himself. Gotten his undergrad degree and now is working for his master's degree. And I had the opportunity to coach him in Japan when we were at the Kitakushu Cup in Kitakushu, Japan. And just to see this young man that has worked so hard at school and at basketball and then was able to go on the floor in Japan wearing Team USA on his chest was pretty awesome to see.
And they encounter not so accessible cities that they go to. However, they are pretty able to, pop up a small step. So, the questions you have to ask are things like a shower bench, or if there's a roll-in shower, with a bench that folds down out of the wall.
One example out of the many that I could cite has to do with a young man that came to us some years back, and he was a very bright boy. At the time he was admitted to the University of Illinois, had all very favorable scores. And he was a big, strong-built boy. He weighed about 255 pounds, and this was not obesity. This was good, solid strength. And yet, at the end of his first year, he was flunking out of school. I had him come into my office several times. He gave me the usual type of story. This was happening, or that was happening, or the instructor wasn't doing a certain job properly. And I finally told him that I'd heard all these stories before, and that if he wanted to come in and tell me the truth and we'd get down to some brass tacks, fine. Otherwise than that, he was wasting both his time and my time. About that time, this great big 250-pounder just broke down and cried like a little baby, which actually was good. And he looked at me and he said, Tim, he said, I've never, ever really gone to school before. He says, I know I've never played before. I've never had the opportunity to compete, which I really enjoyed. And I never had a date before I came here. He says, and I came down here and I just plain went nuts. And so I looked at him and I said, well, I said, what was your schedule this past week? And he said, well, I had a date on Sunday and a date on Monday and a date on Tuesday and a date on Wednesday and Thursday and Friday. And he left Saturday out. I said, what happened to Saturday? He said, Saturday we had a wheelchair basketball game and it was away from here. And I said, the same girl each night? He said, oh, no. So he explained this phenomena to me of how he had reached out frantically for all these things that he had never experienced before, that most of us take pretty much for granted in our growing up years. Do you think you know how to treat your time and your energies now? Yes. And as we discussed, I said, well, at least now you're being honest with yourself, and subsequently you're being honest with me, and I'm perfectly willing to give you another chance. Well, this boy is very successfully and gainfully employed today, and he's among those young men that we're most proud of. But he had to have the opportunity to get rid of these years of nothingness and make up for these years of nothingness. He had to find out for himself where he fit into this world, and to have those things that you and I pretty much take for granted. I think this is a fair statement. It's a simplification perhaps and a broad generalization, but I can't think of any better way to say it briefly.